Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahushai, Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahushai, Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahushai, Koloim La Adonai Yahweh, Bashim Shamalak Yahushai, Bashim Kakadash, double honor to the apostle, the elders, great millstone, presentation, hopeful elect, Shalom. And Lord willing, I come up with a title for this video. I'll think about it after the video is over, or maybe during the middle of this video. But without further ado, this is going into pretty much how women in America, right, are no longer being, valued by American men. And this is just men like born and raised in America, or that pretty much been living in America their whole life, as well as women that been living in America their whole life too. Because usually, sometimes they may come from a different country or so, and they come over here and mostly spent most of their years living in this country to where they didn't have enough time to stay in their previous country that they were born in and hardly raised in. Because let's say they came over here at a very, very young age, like let's say 4 or 5 years old, like my mom, coming from, Cuba, and came over here to this country. And, my mom pretty much was Americanized in a way because, most of her childhood was, raised in America, you know, mainly in New York. But as for other people, they probably came to this country younger, or maybe even a little older, but mostly spent most of their lives here, or they were born here and raised up here, for all their life. And it says American men are no longer interested in American women. The dating wars are on. So that's pretty much, another psychological warfare that's in our society is, the man and the woman, the social issues amongst them, dating, having relationships, and even going as far to another level of a relationship, which is marrying. And that marriage has its flaws in America, because when you have Americanized women, you have women that think that they could do whatever the hell they please. And then when you have American men dating American women, they feel like as though they could tell that these women don't really appreciate all the shit that, these men in America do for them. Because these women feel like as though they deserve more. So I'm going to go into the article. It says the empowered American woman comes with a lot of demands, and the American man is not into that. Would you like to meet my friend Tony? He's in his 50s, earning very well, and he's been trying to find an American woman to start a family with, but they're all so entitled nowadays that he doesn't want to have to deal with them anymore. And I know you Eastern European women treat men like kings. Right. And it's mostly just women in the East in general, I'll say. It was of August of 2021, Midtown, Los Angeles. This happened right as I was enjoying an iced blueberry kombucha out in the mellow California sun. Our Airbnb host, an elderly man who lived in the house right next to us, came over to ask me if I didn't happen to be looking for a husband. While the matchmaking proposal was a bit out of place, it was unfortunately not shocking at all. I've heard it at least 50 times before. It was just never directed at me specifically, and when it was, it felt kind of horrifying, because he chose me just because I was a good-looking Eastern European woman. It was a label that instantly told him an American man would like me and be willing to marry me. And the sad part is that he wasn't even far from the truth. Actually, he was right on the money, literally the money. I happen to have a lot of experiences with this exact situation. Here's why. For about 2 years, I was a coach and trainer to the employees of a webcam studio, which is basically a building with a bunch of hotel-like rooms. The rooms are rented out to women who spend hours in front of a camera talking to men over the internet. Talking turns into flirting, and flirting turns into nudity and virtual sex. Sometimes there's no talking, but usually there is. One of the most common things you hear is the dissatisfaction of American men with the women in their own country and their enchantment with foreign women. I saw many complaints that sounded just like this. American women are so entitled, they think the world belongs to them, and they're full of airs. They don't respect me as a man, and I need a woman, not competition. They always have an argument and an opinion about everything. There's never any peace in the house, and they have something to say about absolutely everything. They don't care of themselves as you girls do. I wish my wife looked like you. My ex-wife was all about her career. She never took care of me. Women in my country, they just don't know how to be feminine anymore. I love that you Eastern European girls are so family oriented and sweet, and you're all so gorgeous. Wow. The great majority of the men visiting cam girls are American. The great majority of women are Eastern European. The men are the clients, the women are the providers of the services. The men pay and the women perform. The men that want the woman to be a certain way and the woman comply. They both play a role. The men pretend to be rich and well endowed. The women pretend to be impressed. But despite the role playing, an overwhelming male need still remains. Men want to impress women. They're not there for a quick sexual fix. They want to be appreciated as men, to see women laugh at their jokes, blush at their requests, and be head over heels for their charisma. Men want women who they can thrill, inspire, and arouse with their masculine charm, and they're willing to pay big money to get them, even if only through a computer screen. But they don't stop here. I mean, there more and more American men take it one giant intercontinental step further. They take it out of the realm of virtual love and into that of getting on a plane and going to an Eastern European country to find a wife. And that's the best way to do it, honestly, I'll say, because doing it on a computer screen, that's kind of like, a little weird. And when you socialize and go out and see it for yourself, have a physical experience, that's better than going out, on a computer screen and doing that type of shit, because it just, you know, it makes you look like one of them incels, to be honest. But let's go on into the article. It says a wife that would fit their needs and desires, and they find her almost every time. Usually, these wives are beautiful, young, and slender, born usually from a large family, uneducated, with very low chances of ever earning a decent living in their home country, raised in a traditional culture, easy to love, easy to please, easy to impress. If this is the majority of American men, of course not. But in a few years, it might be. With the latest rise in women choosing to be single, with the disparity of men versus women using dating apps, and with the progress of equal rights and opportunities for women, men are starting to look elsewhere for suitable partners. American women are asking for equal rights, equal opportunities, equal pay, equal everything, and the men who redirected their efforts toward underprivileged countries figured out that it's much more difficult to impress an equal than an inferior. What do you do when somebody is asking you for something that you're not willing to give? One, you either refuse or try to change their mind. Two, you eventually look for someone else less man, for someone less demanding. Of course, not all American women are going overseas looking for a less demanding woman, but the trend shows how dissatisfied both parties are with how the other party presents themselves. The ever-increasing population of empowered women is looking for partners who develop the soft skills necessary for an emotionally mature relationship. When they can't find it, they get angry and give up on dating and marriage altogether. A lot of men are, in parentheses, more or less openly looking for a woman who still holds traditional gender roles and classic femininity. When they can't find it, they get angry and either give up on dating and marriage altogether or start looking for opportunities where they are still available. And I feel like that's the best thing that they should do is like go look some elsewhere instead of, you know, but just don't give up. And just go look, elsewhere because there's opportunities out there. And it says, while it's undeniably frustrating and unfair that men would rather travel 10,000 miles to marry some poor woman from an impoverished country and different culture with all the problems that come with it, rather than work on their emotional growth, isn't it for the better though? Most certainly is, I'll say, in my opinion. Isn't it better that they get their dream submissive meek wife and these women get a chance to get themselves and their whole families out of poverty? Isn't it everybody happier this way? Sure, it's not the ideal solution. In an ideal world, poor women would go to school and get themselves out of poverty. Incels would work on their soft skills and become relationship material. An empowered woman could relax. The world is finally a fair place. But this is not an ideal world, and until we make it ideal, we're left with imperfect solution to deep-rooted problems. If you have better solutions, this is an ideal world. Would love to hear them. Interested in love and money. All right. So, it seemed like that person really went in depth of this whole article, but a lot of facts are stated here, about how these women are, and then how, you know, you're starting to see a lot of men starting to leave this country, you know, and they're starting to go to other countries out in the east and trying to find better women over there. And this article was posted in November 4th, 2022. So that was pretty recent. Without further ado, I'll go into some scriptures. Hopefully, you hopeful like viewing this video will be edified. And in 1 Ezra chapter 4, verse 37 says, wine is wicked, the king is wicked, women are wicked, all the children of men are wicked, and such are all their wicked works, and there is no truth in them. In their unrighteousness also they shall perish. Exactly. And when you look at a lot of these women, they are wicked under the influence of the children of men, which is Esau, you know. And going into Isaiah, the 3rd chapter, I'll bring that out, how it says, children are the oppressors and women rule over them. And then when you look at Isaiah, the 3rd chapter, it says in verse 12, as for my people, children are their oppressors and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err and destroy the way of thy paths. Exactly. Because every single thing that's supposed to be meant for our people, like, civil rights movement or whatever the case is in the society, these churches, whatever is meant to lead our people is not leading our people, the right way. It's not leading our people to the ways of Yahweh Shem Yahshai. It's actually leading our people astray, you know. And this country, what they do is that they have their problem is that there's a strong government that always supports for everything the woman does, right? And a lot of men think it's you know, like the women are the main problem, but I'll say the main problem is the government because they're the one that's influencing the woman to be a certain type of way. And a lot of times, like when you're in a marriage, especially when you have children with the woman, they what the state does is they have it to where when that woman wants to leave you or you divorce that woman, they don't let you take custody of the kids as the father that easily. So what will happen is that they would go as far as giving that woman the custody of the kids, you know, despite her coming home all type of hours of the night, despite her, you know, being careless. They always support the mother and they always make the father seem like he's the abuser or the aggressor. That's the stigma that a lot of people believe because of feminism, you know? And that's the problem. Men are so shitted on in this society because women are so catered to by the government, you know? It's to the point where whatever you do, you get the harsh consequences. But if a woman does that, there's no double standard. Like if a woman does that, like she will get like a slap in the wrist. It's a light thing. And even seeing that, you really start to understand like that these women feel like they deserve more and they deserve better in America. Like they deserve a man that has more than the man that they with right now. So with that being said, they never settle for less. They always settle for more. And there's a term called casting couch where they will pretty much like perform sexual acts for certain roles and for better opportunities, in Hollywood. But they'll do it in the regular job, in the regular workforce in general. Like, don't be surprised, like, if you see your wife having more money than usual when she has like a low income job or a job that considered to be middle class, after she graduates college, you know, and she gets all these extra bonuses and these incentives, you know, more than what she would usually get. A lot of the times they be bending over for, their boss, you know, and there would be a bed wench on the job right behind your back and kiss you in your face and will tell you that they love you. And when it's coming to like the children in here, the scriptures is talking about, you know, Esau mainly, you know, and even let's just say the woman having kids for that, you know, well, the man having kids for that woman, and the woman bringing forth his children, right, out of her womb. That's his children because he carried the seed, he implanted the seed in her. But they make it seem like that's her kids or whatever. And because of this feminist society, she has the right to take custody of those kids or whatever. They make it easier for her. So as the father, you may want to leave her, but at the same time, you lose out on everything. So you have to go through a whole series and showing proof that she is the aggressor and that she pretty much is making life hard for you and that she doesn't deserve to have custody of the kids, you know. And people usually don't understand the story of what a man really goes through because it's feminist society, so they never understand who's really the hero here and who's really the good guy. And a lot of the times, like, people don't understand like your side of the story until at a certain time when it's almost too late they understand. And women indoctrinate their children from young that their father was no good, you know, just to keep the kids against the father. And then what the father would do is that the father will still try to show that he's still a good man. And that's the issue that you have when you're dealing with women in America, and they treat the stepfather the same way once they deal with a new man, bringing all their past relationship issues onto their new man that they're with. And that's the issue about a lot of these women. These women feel like you deserve to do everything for them, give them the whole world, and all they can offer is their, pre-owned pussy, you know. And there's more scriptures I would like to bring out through the spirit as well. In First Timothy chapter 5, verse 10 says, "While reported of for good works, if she had brought up children, if she had lodged strangers, if she had washed the saints' feet, if she had relieved the afflicted, if she had diligently followed every good work." You know, it says, what you call it? And even verse 9 says, "Let not a widow be taken into the number under 3 score years old, having been the wife of one man." And then it goes into verse 10, but then even when you look at verse 11, it says, "But the younger widows refuse, for when they have begun to wax wanton against Yahushua, they will marry, having damnation, because they have cast off their first faith. And widow, they learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house, and not only idle, but tattlers also, and busybodies, speaking things which they ought not." So They go out recklessly talking shit, um, speaking about things that are unnecessary, that have nothing to do with them, and minding people's business. They going from house to house. They and how they cast off their first faith in verse 12, talking about how they cheat on their men, you know, because when you're supposed to have one man in your life as a woman, you're supposed to be married to one man. It would be all right if he divorced you and then you go and marry another man, after he divorces you. But you're supposed to be having the desire to be with that man, and you're supposed to do everything possible to not make that man upset. Because believe it or not, that man is supposed to be your God, because he's over you. Because that's the order, you know. It's the Heavenly Father, then Yahweh Shai, which is the son of the Heavenly Father, then the man, and then the woman. You know, and that's the order the Most High made it. I tell you that in the New Testament. And these women, they pretty much like they end up like being what you call it, adulterous, and they end up like having multiple men, committing like a fornication against their man. And they learn how to be lazy, idle, you know. They don't really learn how to basically be submissive towards their man. They don't learn how to be subordinate. They want to be anarchical. They want to do anything against their man. And this is women in America we're talking about. And that's mainly our women, because the curses are heavily upon the nation of Israel, mainly the so-called black, people, like amongst our women. They really are pieces of shit, and they're the least desirable. Because women in America, the article said, they're not really that much desired like how women in the East are. And women in America, they what you call it, they have so much expectations and so much requirements for when you date them. Even on these dating apps, you'll see that a lot. They will put certain requirements on their bios, right? Even on social media, sometimes they put it in their statuses and shit like that, and then they expect you to have all this money and all these requirements they have, while a woman in the Eastern countries, like could be like the Middle East, could be in Africa, could be you know in Eastern Europe. Let's just say it's safe to say any continent other than America at this point, you know. But when she's been polluted with that Western influence, you best believe that bitch is gonna be corrupt. And but when she's not under that type of influence, they're in their right state of mind in a way, cause they're not gonna be, you know, their mind is not gonna be like under that type of negative influence. So they're not gonna follow after the ways of America, you know, when they're in those particular countries. Because a lot of the times in those countries, they don't permit that way of living, especially amongst the woman. For her to be adulterous, for her to look at her man in the eye and talk crazy to her man, she might get the shit slapped out of her. She might even get put to death. I wouldn't be surprised if they have those laws in those in certain countries in the East. But because that would definitely happen in the Middle East. Especially committing adultery. Yeah, they will definitely kill their wife for doing that. And scripture said in verse 14, it says, I will therefore that the younger woman marry, bear children, guard the house, give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully. Exactly. They shouldn't even give any reason for the adversary, for the so-called white man and these heathen nations, mainly so-called white man though, which is Esau, Edom. They should not give any type of like support and being, completely contrary to how they're supposed to be, that the scriptures tell you how you're supposed to be, then they completely are contrary to that. They're not supposed to be like that, supporting the adversary in their wicked deeds. Yeah. And it says, for some are already turned aside after Satan. Right. And that's their problem. These women, they follow after the so-called white man, and that's after the ways of Satan, because everything that Esau does is highly contrary to what the Most High, says for women to do. This man has this whole society where you have to serve and bow down to women, and I'm bringing this other scripture out, the spirit, because, a lot of men feel as though, like, when they marry to a woman, they feel as though they have to do everything this country tells them to do on how to be a good husband. And it's like, no, that makes you a weak, a man that gets stepped all over, and the woman is supposed to be that way for you. And in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 29 says, but this I say, brethren, the time is short, it remaineth that both they that have wives be as though they had none. Right. And a lot of the times, like, when a man marries a woman, be in a relationship for over, like, in a marriage for over like a decade, usually it don't really last that long nowadays. Marriages, they breaking short because the woman want to be free. She want to do whatever she please. And it's just so insane to see that, And when it's coming to a lot of these men, they know that if they were to file for divorce, they will miss out on everything. They will lose out. Well, she gets to gain whatever of his assets and resources. He gets to miss out on certain and receives nothing. So it ends up becoming a loss for him and a gain for her. And then after she gains that shit, on top of child support or alimony, then it's like she gets to go out and be twice of a whore than she was before. So with the money that you're supporting her, that child support money is not even going towards the child, it's going towards, her custody. And it's like she gets to be supported of her wicked ways, being drunk and shit like that, And it's like, we're always taught to serve the woman, but the woman is never taught to serve us. And in fact, that's what it's supposed to be. Woman is supposed to be serving us. And that's how women do in the East. They serve their men. And basically, you working a job in this, even if it's a poor job, you working over here, you have enough money to, have a little 2-week vacation in a country in the East. You go out there, try to find a woman, they'll look at you like you're a god over there. And being, for them being poor in their country, they would definitely want to settle with you. And they have a lot of good women over there that look like 7, 8, 9s, and 10s over there that are poor as hell, and they would know how to treat you right. And then it's so bad, like, you have women over here in this country looking like fucking 2, 3s, and 4s, fat as all hell, and then hitting, like, they look like what you call it, like Jabba the Hutts and like ogres, and they over here expecting you to have, a 6-figure income, having requirements like how the females that look like 8, 9s, and 10s, like the requirements they have. You got ugly ass women over here in America thinking that they can have those requirements, thinking that you have to really be on top of your financial, resources in order for you to have their heart. Because at one point, it used to be where women that look unattractive in this country, it used to be at one point where they would at least try to please a man physically with their righteous ways. you know, by knowing how to cook and clean, how to be submissive to him, at least doing what could possibly keep a man, satisfied psychologically. But now it's like they acting like these bitches, how they act on, Tinder, and how they act on, you know, on TikTok and shit like that. How these bitches be acting towards any man that they come across. It's insane. So, even if you have a woman that you flexing with on social media, you taking pictures, smiling with her, kissing her, calling that your wife, it's not really truly your wife because of the way she's conditioned to treating you, how she's indoctrinated, and the way you're indoctrinated to raise on the children and try to do everything in your power to serve her. It's like she's supposed to be serving you and raising the kids for you, and you're supposed to be in complete comfort, you know, but there's no order like that, you know. She doesn't understand what it's like to be feminine, so she thinks she's equal to you, and instead she wants to be masculine, thinking that she may even be superior to you. But you have women in the East, they wouldn't even try that shit with their men over there like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes you have Esau trying to spread his ways and his philosophies in other countries and shit, but the feminism around in those countries aren't as bad as it is over here, you know? Like the saying that goes, how they say bitches ain't shit, or DZB don't trust bitches, you know? Who you find saying that more is a lot of guys in America saying that, you know? And there's even fucking rappers that's pushing that in their songs a lot of times, how they can't trust bitches or how bitches ain't shit, you know? So that's pretty much how it is. But I tell y'all one thing though, the day that this government collapsed, and eventually this trend is gonna keep, going to where more men are just gonna be tired and fed up with women in this country, and they're gonna be very PO'd, in other words, pissed off about women in this country, and what they're gonna do is they're gonna go to other countries and they're gonna find women to be with, and this is gonna be like their vacation travel. On the job they tell you could take a vacation or so, these certain weeks or whatever, and that's exactly what they finna do. They finna just travel, go out there, explore, try to find women in other countries, see what other men are talking about, and be like, oh wow, they felt like they could get this woman and that woman, and the woman is coming to them. They hardly are attracting these women by them having to use pickup lines that is to the point where they just walk out there and then the woman come to them. Because I wouldn't be surprised if it's like that over in those countries, on some Isaiah 41 type of timing. Because usually when you find it over here, it's like in America, most women, they don't approach you unless you have a Ferrari or Lamborghini or so, unless they see you with some type of, thing on in your possession that makes you look very wealthy. In other countries, it's like they see, oh, you probably come from America or so because of the way you dress or whatever, and then they pretty much will be attracted to you because you may help them get out of their because the way they were raised to treat men was way different than the way American women are raised to treat men in America. And I feel like with this whole red pill community growing to where a lot of men are realizing that women ain't shit nowadays, it's gonna come to the point where women are gonna eventually, like, they're gonna be humbled down and they're gonna have to like get right, especially when this government collapse. That's when you're going to see them resorting to their natural ways, you know, of knowing how to cook and clean, and, you know, when this government collapse. And like brothers be saying, you know, it's going to be to the point where a lot of American women are going to die. And a lot of women in America, they're not going to make it. Especially brothers be saying through the spirit, a lot of black women ain't going to make it. And I feel like true say, to be honest, you know, when it's coming to the nation of our women, since they're heavily influenced by the feminism, and that they do twice as bad as what the heathens do, especially the black woman, you know, I could say like the majority of women from the Southern Kingdom, which is like the so-called Black Hispanic Native, which is the so-called Black tribes, like, you know, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, which is the African American, what you call it, the West Indian and Haitian tribes, you know, I feel like majority of them surviving in Jacob's trouble and making it on those chariots will have to be from the countries that's in the east, you know, because there's Jake scattered everywhere, you know, and most majority of them will look like Israelite foreigners in general, of our people that make it through the fire, especially our women. It may look like you have more heathen women than women that have the original looks of an Israelite. You know, they may look more like a heathen than your average so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American woman, you know, that have the looks, you know, because our people are scattered to the point where they don't have the original looks of a so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American. So it just very well may be, you know, to that point. And, you know, when it's coming to our women were taught their whole lives, you know, everything that was contrary to the scriptures because of this feminism shit. But with that, hope I made the lesson edifying. Like, to all glory, praises, honor to Adonai Yahweh, Bashim Shamalak, Yahweh Bashim Gakadash, the honor to the apostle of Elsgrim Millstone, peace, I say, and hope for elect, Yahweh Bashim Shabbat Bakashah, Shalak Rayam, Adawam Yam, Wako Yam, Wa, Baba Ball, Shalom.